Oh, hello, folks. This is Steve AB4L. Now, you know nothing in this episode is a promotion, nor is it a recommendation. I was scrolling down on one of my favorite tabs, /dot news for nerds. Now, I'm in North Carolina. I used to live in Raleigh. You'll see the connection. So there's a little bit of nostalgia in this. So I'm scrolling down looking at all the big news today. Windows 10 update incorrectly tells some users they've reached end of life despite having extended support. Oh no! Another screw up? Here it is. IBM to cut thousands of roles in focus on software growth. A really long time ago, when I was a contractor, meaning I worked for somebody that farmed us out to some big company that paid them and they paid our salary, and when they didn't need us anymore, they just said don't bother coming in anymore. And at the IBM PC company. Yeah, the PCs were, no, don't believe that, invented the kind we have now, where you see Windows and DOS. They used to make them out at Research Triangle Park, North Carolina, about 70 miles that way. And for a while I worked in there making Windows images and OS2 images, multilingual, different languages, that would be loaded onto the hard drives of IBM PC machines according to what country they would be sold in. So like, we had some in Polish, some in German, some in Brazilian Portuguese. We had some in Portugal Portuguese. That's why I'm interested. So I used to go on campus every day and do my work as a contractor. So Reuters says IBM to cut thousands of jobs. See, they're following just like everybody else in the computer-related business. IBM to cut, this is today's news, November 4th, 2025. IBM to cut thousands of jobs in fourth quarter amid software focus. Now, you know, if you follow my channel, I've taken you on a tour of what they're talking about. And I know they're talking about Red Hat, which started in an old factory building on Hillsborough Street, just off the NC State campus. And I used to live not far from there, and just not even an eighth of a mile away was the mansion of the president of Red Hat Software when they really made it big and got bought up or partnered with IBM. Just reminding you, in case you don't remember, why I would be interested. IBM will cut roles this quarter, the company said on Tuesday, potentially impacting thousands of employees while it shifts focus toward its high-margin software segment. If you build something like a computer, now we'll think of what happened with the IBM PC company. If you build computers with parts then when you add the hardware parts up, cost $350 more than you're able to sell that machine for in the open market with IBM PC clone manufacturers. Did you follow what I said? I was sitting in a restaurant for lunch at the edge of Research Triangle Park, and I overheard a discussion in like the next booth. Two people from IBM were talking, and they were apparently from the IBM PC company, and they were saying how somebody in the PC company had bought 6 months worth of drams, you know, the memory you put in there, plug into the board. And in Korea, just in the week prior, there had been a crisis with the dram makers because 3 of them had each spent $1 billion, and now they were competing against each other, and in order to sell, the prices went like this. And the kind of dram that they bought at $350 each, soldered on the chips, suddenly were being sold over the internet for $30. But they'd already paid $300. 6 months worth manufacturing supply. Do you understand? So that's how other people could be selling machines now that they just put together and bought the parts just in time a week ago. They can sell it for a rock bottom price that IBM couldn't possibly get any customers selling the machine at what it actually cost them to make, plus a profit margin, which would be a low margin. So they found Lenovo to buy it because Lenovo thought they could be smarter than IBM Americans at how to do that. And Lenovo is still in business. And they set up their U.S. headquarters a few miles down the road in Morrisville, North Carolina. Anyway, I want to give you the background because you notice what it just said there. They're shifting their focus to high margin software segment. So once you invent the software, how much can you sell it for? If you can sell enough at $200 and it only costs you, if you sold enough of them, and you divided how many you sold into how much it cost to develop it, and the development then added up to only $10 per license you sold, but you can charge $200, it's high margin, big profit. It's not like some hardware that's on the shelf that you spent too much money on. Now, why am I going down this road? So IBM says we routinely review our workforce and at times rebalance accordingly. The vocabulary hasn't changed. In the fourth quarter, we are executing an action that will impact a low single-digit percentage of our global workforce. And I read another place the global workforce is 200-something thousand people. But there's a big chunk in India. So the guy Krishna, the CEO, under CEO Krishna, there was a god figure in India called Krishna. That's why it's a popular name in Hinduism. IBM has doubled down on software as it looks to tap into increased spending on cloud services through its Red Hat division as businesses integrate AI technology. Okay? Red Hat division. The user is asking about Red Hat division, but division is too vague. Red Hat is a company that provides enterprise open source software, and the term division must refer to different product lines, its corporate structure, and since the Red Hat, this response provides information on Red Hat's main product categories and a summary of its acquisition by IBM. I wanted to prove to you that I know what I'm talking about. But I remember when Red Hat was working in a old machine shop factory, as I said, on Hillsborough Street, when they only had maybe 20 people. I went in there one day and looked at it. Now, so what's going on? October 21st, 2025. This is 2 weeks ago. IBM moves workers out of RTP to nearby Durham offices. IBM moves employees out of Research Triangle Park offices to IBM 500 campus in Durham. Now, the boundary between Durham County, and RTP is, you're talking about, these two addresses are a mile apart. Axios. All right, Business Journals, October 20th. IBM relocates most of its employees from its historic RTP campus to leased space nearby, exploring options for the 400-acre site. North State Journal 4 days ago. IBM confirmed it will move most employees into its RTP 500 office buildings. Well, I know where those are. Research Triangle Park is the largest research park in the United States. 7,000 acres, more than 300 companies, 65,000 workers, and one of the earliest big companies to move in, IBM. Now, notice that they're shuffling employees around within where their campus was in RTP. When I worked as a contractor in the IBM PC company, I can remember when we first went in there, the contractors didn't all come from one supplier. There were several. And there was one gal that I worked with. She and her husband, he was an IBM employee, and she was going to work as a contractor like me in the PC company. And they had moved up from IBM closing its Boca Raton IBM campus, closing the Boca Raton site, and her husband, I guess, was given an opportunity to relocate to a job opportunity in IBM in Research Triangle Park. But she wasn't an IBM employee, but she ended up working in the PC company right next to me in the same lab. But you see, the point is, closing a location, there had been a major location because it's out of date for some reason, and moving it to something that's the cutting edge, when back in that time, in the middle 1990s, IBM Research Triangle Park apparently was growing. Got it? So what's happening now? See, it doesn't sound organized, but I'm trying to give you a feeling for what this is about. Axios. IBM consolidates RTP footprint as it weighs the future of its 400-acre campus. IBM, one of the triangles, triangle is Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill. Research Triangle Park, the airport, lots of businesses. IBM, one of the triangle's largest employers, is consolidating its Research Triangle Park-based employees into one office building and weighing future plans for its sprawling 400-acre campus. Why it matters. IBM's corporate campus has been a cornerstone, yes, of our Research Triangle Park since 1965. The company brought, it repeats what I said. The company brought thousands of transplants to the region, like my friend who came up from Boca Raton, and provided high-tech jobs for graduates of local universities, keeping many from leaving the state entirely in search of, okay? IBM told Axios that it's moving most of its employees into the RTP 500 office buildings, a multi-building property it sold to the developer Hines in 2023 for $66 million and now currently leases. The big picture, the move by IBM comes at a time when leaders of Research Triangle Park, which is a business entity, plot the future of the famed research park under a plan dubbed RTP 3.0. So IBM had a big campus, a lot of buildings, a lot of acreage, and they sold it off, or a lot of it, or all of it, to an outside capital company, and then leased it back. Now, was it a year and a half ago here, there was a big furniture manufacturer here that suddenly closed its doors just without giving any notification, had 3 locations here, right here. Their history was they were getting into a squeeze financially, and they had basically sold the company to a financial firm in New York or something, and they were keeping them going by giving them enough money each week apparently to pay salaries. But finally, the ones in New York decided, the hell with it, we're losing money. We'll get more money by selling the land and the buildings. You're finished. So the company, which was being kept alive, remember, it sold everything to them, then it leased the space back. I'm talking about the furniture company here. Why am I talking about it that way? Because that sounds like what they're doing here. They did it 2 years ago. They sold the whole campus that they owned, 200 acres, whatever it is, and then they leased it back. That means get ready if we have to leave town. Now, the main campus is on Cornwallis Road. I always smile at that. Who was Cornwallis? He was the British general during the American Revolutionary War that was chasing the insurgents here in North Carolina and ended up fighting the American Army, Revolutionary Army, right up there in what is today Greensboro. Cornwallis was in charge of that British force and Hessians. And they had a number of pivotal battles here in the Piedmont of North Carolina. And then he just went right down to the coast, went to Virginia, and tried to find Washington up there, and lost the war and had to go back to England. He got knighted and all that shit in recognition of his great country. That's the Cornwallis, General Cornwallis. His left wing, or whatever it was at what's called Battleground Avenue now, was starting to be overrun by the Americans, and he turned to his artillery and he said, "Fire on our end of the line. We're losing." And the artillery officer said, "You light the cannon." Do you understand that? So Cornwallis went over, he took the torch, and he fired the cannon at one end of his line against both the Americans and his own British soldiers. Why would somebody say, "You do it"? Because he wanted to be sure that he wasn't getting court-martialed for it. Cornwallis. Excuse me, my mind wanders. Okay. So when you put in that address, they come up with IBM Building 305, 3039 East Cornwallis Road, Building 502. Now do you see the thing moving? I said they're less than a mile apart. And Building 62. It's interesting they got Building 62 is the same. Now, I'd like to show you what it looks like. See, there's IBM Drive, there's Cornwallis Road, but it's not properly showing us there's Building 305. It's not a small structure. Look at the size of the parking lot. Here's Building 62. That's the main one on Cornwallis. Does it look like it's small? It's got a nice campus, right? We're talking about it's huge. That's the backside. They sold it all and then leased it back. And now they're taking the people from that building and the other one, and they're putting it over on the 500 campus. Excuse me while this campus right here, they're taking them from the gigantic buildings and putting them all into what's actually about 4 buildings here. I've been there, that's where I worked. You know, PC company and stuff like that. So they're all being stuffed into there before whatever their final destiny is. Let me see if they have actually gone onto campus. Whoa, no, don't do that. Oh, come on. Why did it do that? Why did it do that? You know what I think of Google Maps, right? I've told you about that. Oh, there. All right, we got it back. Sort of. Excuse me for screwing up. Let's see if I can do it. Now what you do is you come in on Miami. See, you come in on Miami. I want to see if they'll let you go down the road. See the IBM sign? Now you have to be able to get past this, right? I mean, you're talking about something that's really beautiful. They didn't go that way. This is IBM Drive. We saw it on the map. Wouldn't you like to be in a place like this? Here we go. I want to give you a feeling for what it was like. Okay? Can you see the buildings? I know there's a lot of trees. It's beautiful. So they've moved everybody to here from those other bigger buildings. So how many head have they cut? Then you get something like this. MCNC joins NC State's IBM Quantum Innovation Center. Quantum computers. My first, when I was working at NC State, my first connection from home to the internet was through MCNC. They were part of the original ARPANET rudimentary beginning internet way back. They were a major player. It wouldn't have turned out the way it did today if it weren't for the geniuses there behind the scenes pushing it. I'm not kidding. IBM Quantum Innovation Center at NC State. Let me ask you something. Why aren't they doing that out in RTP? You didn't expect that jump, did you? Why aren't they doing that out in RTP? IBM Quantum Innovation Centers are a part of a worldwide community of leading Fortune 500 companies, startups, academic institutions, and national research labs working with IBM to advance quantum computing. Matter of fact, I saw quantum computing news just yesterday that if it's true, it's a big breakthrough. Promoting quantum computing research and applications. But it's not out in RTP. It's on the NC State campus in Raleigh. The IBM Quantum Innovation Center at NC State is located on the Centennial campus. That's the newest part of the campus that they started about, 15 years ago. On Venture Drive, Venture Place. Why do they call it Venture Place? NC State has always been involved in research that companies need. When I worked on the NC State campus, NC State was like, in terms of research grants, was like number 5 in the country. Not a bit player, not at all. So these here, down here, this is the Centennial campus. You like that building? That building looks bigger than the ones that IBM is getting out of. Do you think if this building was built within the last 10 years? Money got poured into that, and not just from the state of North Carolina, donors. So the main campus is this area here, fronted by Hillsborough Street. That's the traditional campus that started out as State College, which was a land-grant university founded just after the Civil War ended. There were land-grant universities set up all over the then United States in various states to promote efficient agriculture, land-grant universities, to promote efficient agriculture and new industries. We're talking about in the late 1860s, including in Raleigh. And this campus was way out of town. Raleigh was down Hillsborough Street a couple of miles. You had to hit a horse and buggy or a horse to get from out to State College. It was in the middle of the woods and farmland. Not today. But when you're going to expand a campus, as they started to do, then you have something called Centennial Campus. That's where, and look at all the buildings that are on Centennial Campus. There's as many of them there as there is on the original campus. And the original campus, if you go look at it, because I looked recently, a lot of what were independent departments, like in what had been the College of Agriculture, they're all consolidated into one department, because they're de-emphasized in the face of other things that are, and what has been real big in the NC State? Computer systems and computer engineering. Woo! Venture Center. Now, it looks to me like, and as an example, NC State's still doing this, and something's happening with IBM's in our Research Triangle Park, like that. But I don't know it, and they're emphasizing Red Hat. Center for Technology and Innovation. It's a beautiful building. Centennial Campus. Okay, now one last question. Where is Red Hat HQ located? In North Carolina. It's in Raleigh. It's in Durham. The annex by Red Hat, Raleigh. Office locations. Davie Street. Red Hat worldwide, 100 plus offices in 40 plus countries were easy to find. 100 East Davie Street. I'm almost certain that's right down in the most expensive part of downtown Raleigh today. Why isn't it out at Research Triangle Park? Do you have a feeling for the kind of neighborhood it's in? But this is 425. Oh, here it is. There it is. There it is. There's the Red Hat building. What do you think of it? Does it look like they have a lot of people working in there? Why didn't they build that out? Why don't they have all those people out in Research Triangle Park? Is it because they don't want to be out there? Why are they just, remember, now hang on. Hang on. And then I'll finish. Okay, that's where it is. And it, all right, and it probably is this whole thing. So if you go from here, this is Davie Street. There's the state capitol. That's 4 blocks. And here's Hillsborough Street. They've changed Hillsborough Street. They got these roundabouts. And you go out here like this. This is the NC State North Campus. The South Campus faces Western Boulevard, which is just a quarter of a mile down, but it goes straight down. And approximately, the building probably isn't there, but approximately where I first saw Red Hat, boy, Hillsborough Street really has changed a lot. Wow, they've torn everything down. They've replaced it with something else. Oh, there it is. I got it. We got it. I was close. There's the building right there. This one right here. What is it now? Yeah. It's a uniform. You know, your workers have to have uniforms for the business. There it is. It was Red Hat started in this building right here. That one right there. You see what they are downtown? They started here. I went in there. I'm comparing the beginnings of Red Hat and their building downtown. You saw it, and then contrasting that to what's happening to IBM out at Research Triangle Park. Now, I've let this go on a long time. I'm going to give you a similar example, I think. A long time ago, I worked for a company which still exists called Rahm & Haas. And here's 309 coming up out of Raleigh. And there's Norristown Road. And that what you see right there, those buildings, was the Rahm & Haas Company new research laboratories. We're talking about 1960s. And if you don't believe me, the name of this is Rahm Road. Rahm and Haas. Rahm Road. Do I know what I'm talking about? I worked in this building here. I can tell you that what's under this right here is the big water reservoir. All the drains from the research laboratory went in there. Oh no, excuse me. It's this field here, this one here. There's actually 2 of them. And when it filled up and there's chemicals in it, they analyze it and then they treat it to purify the water. and then they are allowed to put it into the water system of the Springhouse area. I'm just proving I've been here. But none of this is Ramen Haas today. They don't have anything. They don't have anything on campus anymore. They used to 5 years ago. Jefferson Institute for Bioprocessing, Roquette Pharmaceutical Innovation Center, Springhouse Innovation Park, Motivate Fitness, Oriental Huang North American, Hebron Company Incorporated. In other words, what had been a brand new campus for advanced research, chemical research, built in the 1960s. Ramen Haas apparently at some time sold it all off, but you have all those buildings, and they're being broken up and retrofitted, and companies move in. And why am I telling you this? Because I think that's what's happening to the IBM properties in Research Triangle Park. Okay? But I'm going to contrast something. You see how these buildings were put to use? Now I'm going to bring it closer to home for yet another contrasting example. This is the way my mind works. Let's go 3 miles down the road. No. It's about 3 miles down the road. If you've been watching my videos, you know where we are. This started as a textile mill in the 1840s. It enjoyed a good life and expanded all the way into the kind of time I'm talking about when I was working at Ramen Haas in the 60s. But after a certain amount of time with competition from overseas and changing technology and all that, it simply becomes a warehouse. And all of the jobs that are in there don't exist anymore. There used to be stores where the parking lot is. This used to be a commercial village. That was the post office. Okay? Places go through a cycle. Do I think Research Triangle Park is going to become like this? I very much doubt it. But will the IBM facility become like the Ramen Haas facility in Springhouse? Yes, at least. That's where I think it's going. Because even the article said they're emphasizing the high margin of Red Hat, and I showed you what kind of building they have in the most expensive part of downtown Raleigh. It would have been cheaper to build that building anywhere else. They must have had a reason why they built it in downtown Raleigh, one to 1.5 miles down the street from the old factory building where they started. Old factory building. Can you see kind of a correlation between that one that's the uniform place now and the kind of building it is and what this is? That building was probably built before 1900. That's a guess. Not this one, the one that Red Hat started in. And they were probably like the They were just temporary. It was a cheap place to be. They moved their desks in there. If you walked inside, you knew it was some kind of, it used to be a factory. But that's where you start, when you have a good idea, but you don't have much money. Okay, enough. Steve AB4L, IBM to cut thousands of roles in focus on software growth. Saying see you in 73.